Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you're new to this channel, or you've not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support this channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside the show while it's live, but there's also a link in the info box below the video once it's rendered. Most importantly though, if you would like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the shape of the Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show. Sharing the show increases the live audience, of course, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel. So please share the show. And one last time, if you are new to the channel or you've not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now we are joined by Ranty, Chocolate Saiyan, and Sleeping Warrior. How are you all doing?
Good.
Good.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I haven't had a chance to speak to you actually since your show yesterday.
Nope. Busy day yesterday.
It was pretty good. That's all I will say.
Yeah. I think Mick showed that he has no responses whatsoever to why perspective isn't calculated for in his myth magics. And when pushed to it, he didn't really have a lot to say for why he can't correctly citate or correctly reference his citations. And he refused to change his incorrect citation on his website. So not only can he not correctly citate stuff, he also cannot correctly identify where there's a mistake with the mistake. And I'll call it a mistake. I'll give him the credit of the doubt. I'll show that he just couldn't accept that it was wrong. So he refused to make a correction for his inaccurate citation. And he admitted and accepted that the presuppositional R value is indeed just that.
Yeah.
One of the dogs.
An assumed value. And he admitted it on several occasions. And once we got him to admit it, he started trying to use it as though it was some sort of defense.
It's a shame he was on his wrong microphone accidentally. I did notice it was worse than normal, but didn't detract away from the quality of his work. I'm just trying to go on.
So I was just going to wonder what the debate's going to be about today. As I say, I haven't had a chance to speak to you guys, so I don't know.
Well, Hillel Finder, an American geezer, he wants to join the panel. I've given him the link offline. He should be joining the panel shortly because he wants to discuss the Isle of Man.
Why? Firstly, why?
Basically, I asked him. He wants to come over to visit St. Bees because he wants to see it with his own two eyes, which is fine. I've offered him an olive branch. I've said, right, if you let me know when you're coming over, you can stop at mine for free. It'll cost him nothing. However, he hasn't. I asked him, could he just explain why the land was visible when lay on my belly at the beach? And if you can put 9 feet in if you want to, but the reality was it was just above the water's level on the driest part of the sand. In any event, I asked him why was it that this has not been debunked in any way. It's not even been attempted. It's 700 feet of missing curvature. And I'll quote from his most recent message to me. And this is what his response is so far. Well, I believe most globers, including myself, say that it has not been proven that the dark smear to the right of Isle of Man mainland in your down on your belly footage are those northern mountainous regions on the Isle of Man. Now, they're not mountainous. They're only 300-foot cliffs. I plan to address that by taking many zoomed and panoramic shots of the Isle of Man as I walk down to the beach, while also taking azimuths and elevations of the land, yada, yada, yada. Like I said, though, if possible, I'd like to come on Nathan's show today and talk about this directly with you guys.
Yeah, but does he realise the difficulties that he's going to have? I mean, how many times have we been to St. Bees and we haven't even able to be seen any of the Isle of Man at all?
Well, it's because it's fallen behind the curve, Ranty.
No, I mean, you should always be able to see a good portion of it anyway. That's the point.
No,
but the weather conditions don't allow us to see it.
Correct. But this is where I think he'll benefit from this, because he'll realise that this is real world, and it shits all over his perception of this ball that we're supposed to live on. because Nathan saw with his own unaided eye that you could see floaty land from stood next to the ice cream parlor. Now that's at the top of the rocks, the top of the cliffs. Oh, I say top of the cliffs, top of the steps, which is the lowest elevation that we've all been talking about. That wasn't the beach. That's not that far above the beach. When you go down onto the beach, you can still see floaty land. However, on the occasions when I did it, I could still see like elements of like mirage, like wavy lines and optical effects that they would call obstruction, therefore it's curve. But anybody with half a brain can realize that it's an effect of the weather conditions at the time. And I don't want to put words in anybody's mouth here, but it is optical, right? It's not the curve of the earth you're looking at. It's distortion caused by the effects of the atmosphere at that exact moment in time. But Nathan saw with his own two eyes that we could see floaty land, and it was significantly lower than the original video that I did, which was alongside the caravans, which turned out to be about 70 feet or something like that. It was significantly lower than that, and he saw it with his own two eyes, unaided, and we could walk down the steps, and you could literally see this land. And his perception, Hillel Finder's perception, is many globers, including myself, say that it has not been proven that the dark smear to the right of Isle of Man mainland in your down on your belly footage are those northern mountains on the Isle of Man. Well, if you cross-reference it with the composite, then unfortunately there's no getting out of it. It's a match. But not only is it a match, it shows the effects of convergence as well, because the land appears to be squashed, which is exactly what you would see if we lived on a plane. That height is getting squashed into the horizon. It's convergence. Why is that evidence there, in addition to the fact that the land is there? And how would that be explained on a ball? So far, nothing. No debunk, no nothing.
Okay.
Ranty, I was going to say, do you still have a copy of the composite? But since
I've sent it to you a dozen times.
I know, but since I had to reinstall Windows the other day, I think I might have lost it.
I'll find it somewhere. I think it might be on my Google
While you have
Drive.
a quick look, can you just say hello to Mark and Arwin? Hi, Mark. Hi, Arwin.
Hi, hello, gentlemen.
Could I address this alkane nonsense?
Yeah, if you want.
And there was a video put out about a bunch of flat earthers get it astonishingly wrong, I think was the name of the video by this gentleman here. Where are we?
You're on.
Simon Dan, right?
You mean no Simon Dan? There's no Sai in his conversation. He just rejects the evidence and distorts it to suit his narrative. Do you know, can I just say, Ranty, before you do, Nathan and I discussed whether we should even talk about this, and we came to the conclusion that we weren't going to mention it because we didn't really want to promote him. So well, yeah, we can mention it if you want, but
yeah, I'm happy to just congratulate Alkay on providing the most astounding flat Earth proof that I've seen from any ball earther in recent times. Honestly, and I'm going to prove it right now.
I agree.
So obviously here we have his observation from 30.9 miles away. There is one that was a lot further, 39 miles away. I think he got down to about a foot in elevation. But as you know, everything, things converge at the horizon, and it was pretty smudged at that distance. So something that was a 30 mile, 31 mile is always a good viewing position to get some data from. So essentially from that distance, 552 feet of the mountain should be hidden, right? So if I show you, this is the high elevation, right? So he went up to an elevation of over 300 feet, much nearer, and he was able to see right down to the little piece of land at the bottom here where the lighthouse is on. So this is from his high elevation. This is what it looked like. Now I'm going to go through some points of interest on these two observations. So this is from the distance at 30.9 miles away, and this is the high observation, right? So I'm going to be looking for points of interest because obviously they don't look the same on first glance, right? So on the next thing, what we need to do is we need to find common ground to make sure that what we're looking at is the same part of the mountain and how much of the mountain we're actually seeing. So I've highlighted some positions here on the two images that are a very, very, very close match. Okay. On the next point, we have a little ledge that comes across to the right here. I wonder if I can zoom in on that.
No, you're all right. Keep it like that. It's good. We can see.
All right. Okay. Where are we? So, right, 1, 2. So we have a little ledge that comes across here, and we have a little ledge that comes across here. So there's a match in the same locations too. The next point is obviously this very clear piece of rock on the side of the mountain that is evident here as well. And if you look at how they're all three are in relation to each other, height-wise and position left and right, they're all identical. The next point of interest is the far right-hand side, where this drop comes right off and curls out right at the bottom. This drops off and curls off right at the bottom, just the same on the two images. Next point of interest, slightly more subjective, but what you got to realize is that he is actually doing it from a different location. So although they match up, they're not as clear as the rest.
There's a small element of rotation because he's on a slightly different angle.
Exactly, yeah. So like this little rock here isn't evidenced on the side here, but that's just because he's from a slightly different angle, as you've just quite correctly pointed out. There's the ledge that comes out here, there's the ledge that comes out there, and there's the side of the rock, and lastly we have again this little piece of land at the bottom and a little piece of land at the bottom here, right?
Yeah.
Now if you take that as a whole, right, forgetting the fact that because this was done at distance, obviously it's compressing it, so it's being squashed slightly.
That's the point there. It's compressing it, and the best illustration of the compression is seen in that bottom right-hand corner box. Look at the difference in the height, but it's the same profile.
Exactly. This is the most clear evidence that it's the same image, complete image of the same thing, seen at different distances, right? Now, the distance to this one's 30.9 miles. This is from elevation, so he's looking down on it slightly. He's looking at it from 300 feet high. This one's looking at it from essentially like 3 feet. So he is going to have a different perspective view. Anyway, next point. The height of Ailsa Craig, within a few feet, is the height of 2 Blackpool Towers. You could stack 2 Blackpool Towers, one on top of each other. And what I've done here...
So Blackpool Tower's 518 feet tall, so double that would be 1,036, and it's 1,136, so it's 100 feet short, correct?
Correct, yeah. But for illustration points, I've just put 2 Blackpool Towers in just to make this demonstration. We have 552 feet hidden, which is greater than the height of Blackpool Tower. So I've put a dotted line in here that goes across. And essentially all this underneath where it says 552 hidden, that should all be gone. Which means if I go back through the list of, let's go back to that one actually. So if I go back to these, that would mean that everything beneath this point that matches up is wrong, right? That's essentially what it is.
Yeah.
Either this is wrong, all these matchings up are correct, or wrong, whichever way you choose to make it. But this point here, right, and the point at the top are the 2 most compelling points for me to give a position of what we're actually looking at on these images. This point here and this point here.
It's quite demonstrandum. You got it dead right.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I've got it dead right. And basically all this should be gone. All of this should be gone, right? And lastly, this is the Ardrossan elevation. Where's this Burke? This group of flat earthers get it astonishingly wrong.
Yeah.
This is his impression of how much we're seeing from distance, right? This is Burke's impression. He slapped the bit on the top, right, and said that's what we've seen from the 39-mile observation, right? Well, that can't be true because from the 30.9 elevation point, all this matches up perfectly.
Yeah.
What he's done
Ranty,
is he's essentially shrunk down the size of the top image, which is from a couple of feet, and sort of squashed it onto the top, like it's ice cream on top of an ice cream cone.
Yeah, it's exactly what he's done. Here.
Ranty?
Yes?
Could you do us a favour? Could you dig out his video and just show my comment on his video? That's the exact point I made. And I just said what he's done. If he classes that as a match for an overlay that's supposed to be the same, he's blind as a bat. But I think he realizes that that's not that. I think he honestly realizes that doesn't match, but he's pushed it anyway.
Well, what you've got to consider is that first Alkay did his lowest observational height at 1 foot, not 3 feet or 5 feet or 10 feet. He did it at 1 foot elevation from the furthest distance, 39 miles. Now that is going to compress the height of the image. We know that from our own observations. What it does, it squashes it. And he has used this unclear 39-mile image, which is pretty difficult to make out anything of interest on this particular image, which is why I used the 30.9-mile distance one, because it was much clearer. You know, this one was far clearer to work on and compare it with than the one that he used. But what he's done is he's taken that unclear image and he slaps it on the top of the of the high elevation profile and said this is a match, and it's nothing like a match at all.
Yeah. Ranty, just can you dig out his my comment on his thing and just read my comment? It's exactly what you've put, but then look at his response to it. His response to my comment is ridiculous.
Let's see. Let's have a look down here. Let's see if you're. How far down is it going to be?
Going. Miles Davis. I haven't seen him around for months.
It would have seemed he's still around.
I don't think that's the real Miles. Might be anyway, but keep going.
I'm going.
It was about 3 days ago.
Right, okay. Well, all I'm seeing is here, there's a lot of people commenting, and they're patting him on the back. He's got a lot of likes, hardly any dislikes, which you'd expect. You'd expect that.
Yeah.
But essentially, he's got it so wrong. Al-K's got it so wrong.
Yeah. But
there's no other comments, actually.
Was it a primary comment, or was it a response to somebody?
It might have been on Nathan's one. If you go to Nathan's one. I may have followed on from Nathan's one. Yeah,
Nathan's
that's
16 views. Right,
there
Sleeping Worry, right.
Read that.
Simon Dan, so about that drop value and the hidden value, overlay matched about
as close
as fitting curtains to a ball. My point is the mountain should be missing.
Stop. Hillel Finder's safe. You don't need to kick him, anybody. Go on.
Can't you geometry, dude? Your shite overlay proves your nonsense is wrong. Why don't you focus on the overlay a little better? Yeah, I mean, essentially, he put this video out pretty quick. He obviously did absolutely no research in it.
Yeah, but look at his response. Read his response.
Everyone can see it matches pretty much perfectly. Okay. I would disagree. Your point was that the first image was the whole mountain, which you can clearly see it isn't. Right. Well, like I said, you can't really tell what you're seeing on the 30.9 image. Let's be honest. It is quite difficult.
And my point in response to Al-K was that any of it is even seen, not necessarily some of it or all of it, although my position is you can see all of it. My point originally is that none of it should be seen at 39 miles away because of the drop value. That puts the base of the mountain that's bigger, the drop value is greater than the height of Elsa Craig. That puts the whole thing behind it.
Yeah.
All of it.
And on this diagram here, half of this image at the top should be gone. Half of it, all this lower stuff. I mean, like you correctly said, this point here is so clear, so clear. And this point here is clear. I mean, this guy's got it so wrong.
Yeah, he has. But the thing is, if he was correct, I would be on the baller's side. I would be saying, Simon Dan, you're the man. You've got this so right. Riley and crew have got it wrong. They're idiots. But he's completely got it wrong, but he won't even accept it. But that compression point on the right-hand side, the two boxes you've got on the right-hand side, is proof that it's flat, regardless of how much you're seeing, because it shouldn't converge like that on a ball. It should drop and only drop. It shouldn't converge, which is now it's perfect for Hillel Finder to come in because he disputes that we even see the land at the north of Isle of Man, even though we again see compression and convergence in the evidence. Whether you can argue that the land is the land or not the land. It's moot. The point is it matches the composite image and it's squashed. And the only explanation for that is that we live on a plane. Regardless of whether it's the same amount or not, the only explanation is a compression squashed at the horizon of the land that matches both elevations is proof that it's a plane, regardless of how much you've seen.
Well, let's have a look. 182 likes, 34 dislikes. Okay. And it's all horse manure.
Yeah.
So I'm going to dislike it. There we go.
And Simon Dan, we deliberately didn't respond to this video because, to be honest, you're too stupid to understand the facts that you're looking at, the evidence that you're looking at. And we didn't want to promote you, but seeing as though Ranty's now essentially done it, we might as well destroy you. Was it necessary?
What calculator are you using?
Was it necessary to interrupt me then, Al?
Well, you said all calculators were bunkum at the weekend.
That's correct. So I was going to make that correction, actually, Alan. So well pointed out. What Ranty has done, fair enough mistake, is he's just used the original, totally fallacious, not accounting for angular reduction in size calculator. And Anthony's just pointed that out. He said that it should all be gone.
Just put the curve.
What calculator are you using that's supposed to take into account angular size of a target?
Sorry, we went through this with Mick West, Halal Finder. Did you not watch yesterday?
Sorry?
Did you not watch us with the guy who creates the calculations based on the standard model of Earth yesterday, Mick West? Did you not see that?
No.
Okay, I'll just take you through it then. The calculations do not account in any way, shape or form for an angular reduction in distance, which is what we would call a viewing function, i.e. any camera, video recorder or set of eyeballs that ever looks at anything ever experiences an angular size reduction at distance. And yet these calculations do not in any way, shape or form account for that. And they do that by presenting a side elevation and keeping the target height the same, consistent, regardless of distance, which is absolutely fallacious. As we see an angular, as we see an angular size in reduction due to distance. Everyone experiences it every day of every minute that they see things. Every camera takes that view into account when they use the shutter, and every video recorder takes that into account when they press the record button. Everybody understands implicitly that there is an angular size reduction at distance, and yet these calculations maintain target height. Totally and utterly fallacious.
No, most of them don't
just
have
before
a
you
target.
interrupt me again, do you understand what I've just explained to you, Mr. Hinder?
Yes, but...
Excellent. So these calculations are completely fallacious, Halal. Hope you understand that.
Well, I do understand it. It's just that most calculators do not have a target. They have a distance, but they don't have an actual target.
Yes, we appreciate that. Unfortunately, lots of Muppets from the globe side come along and tell us how much a target should be hidden. I would be very annoyed if I was one of those idiots.
Hang on. Hillel raises a valid point. There is no part on the Metabunk curve calculator for the object or the target, and that is indeed a fair point. And the response to it is, sure, either put one in so we can do the angular size perspective reduction accordingly, or put a disclaimer in saying that the target that you're looking at appears smaller than it is in real world because of perspective. So
you can just calculate it yourself.
Yeah, but the issue is telling us that it needs to be reduced.
Sorry, that's just not true, Anthony. If you go back to the Metabunk calculation, you will absolutely unequivocally see the target on the side profile.
You mean in his example picture?
No, actually, that's not right, Nath. There is no target in the picture.
That's correct. Goes back to my question.
What are you looking at then? Hold on, let's just bring up the calculator. If I'm wrong, I'll concede. Can you just bring up the calculator so we can have a look?
Who?
You.
Yes.
You make it a bit bigger.
To be fair, he is correct. There is no target referenced in the curve calculator. However, the issue is, if we're going to be applying this to targets in the distance, be it mountains, tall buildings, anything you like, there either needs to be the adjustment for perspective within the maths, or there needs to be the disclaimer saying that objects in the distance appear smaller than they actually are. You know, like in the bottom of the wing mirrors where it says in that little print thing on most cars, objects in the mirrors appear closer than they actually are. We need something like that because it misleads people into thinking that when you put the observer, the height of the target that you're looking at into the calculator for the amount of hidden, it means that people will be putting in the full height, which is what every single baller has done since day one. And that's not correct. So when asked, would he change it? He basically... Well, we never got to the conclusion on that point. He just, we never got to that particular point being addressed, but he refused to address the other points. So I would pretty much assert that he would also refuse to deal with this. The point is,
Mick didn't get a word in, did he?
Oh yeah, got
Yeah,
that.
I listed how many interruptions prior to me being accused of interrupting him there actually was, and I put timestamps to all the interruptions that Mick did in the first 10 minutes of him joining.
Yeah, and
Do you want to take
besides,
that
he
back, Alan? Do
openly
you want to just take
admitted
that
he
back
had
and
no
accept
proof
that
for
your
ours.
god did actually make lots of interruptions?
Oh, well, I'll give you that he didn't do a very good job.
Yeah, we all know implicitly that he did an absolutely appalling job. That's why Mr. Halal, or whatever his name is, has just been corrected and pointed out that there is no angular size reduction. He can claim that the side elevation doesn't show a target, but we are actually dealing with targets in photographs with every single observation we make. So it's a bit of a fallacious nonsense that he's brought up. But yes, we are absolutely dealing with targets when we look at something on a photograph.
Yes,
I assure you.
The calculator doesn't include targets, which is why...
Sorry, what are we looking at then? What are we actually calculating then?
Why should not be
Sorry,
you?
Alan, what are we actually calculating then?
Drop.
Yeah, drop of what?
In relation to the observer,
Sorry,
or just
Alwyn, drop of what, Alan?
What do
Take
you
your
think?
time, dickhead. Drop of what?
Oh, come on, it's
A
modern-
target, you stupid buffoon. So you're going to dance around the fact that we're not actually targeting things when we look at... Stupid idiot. Yeah, we're targeting things. When we point a camera at something, we target it. We look at it. Then we measure it with the calculator. Let's not have any of this bullshit that the target's not in the calculation. That's precisely what we're calculating. How much of the target we see. Any objections, Muppets?
Yes, why didn't you ask Mick why the equation didn't include perspective calcs?
We did! You stupid idiot.
They did about 5 times.
Are you literally that retarded? Have you got selective hearing? My God, the cognitive dissonance is strong with this one.
Okay, drop the Jeremy Kyle accent.
Shut your stupid mouth. You are literally a retard, Alan. Shut your stupid mouth. Why have you just asked me about a question we asked him about 15 times? You are literally dumb.
There's no need for this.
Yeah, when I'm dealing with retards, they get the sharp end of my tongue. In this instance, you asking me why I didn't ask him about why an angular size reduction calculation was not included in his calculator is farcical.
That's not what I said.
Farcical and idiotic. Now telling me that it's not what you said just gets me more annoyed with you, you stupid man.
I said...
I don't care what you said. Shut up. Stay out of this conversation, you stupid little man.
I thought you were after the truth.
I am after the truth. Something that Mick West doesn't include. He doesn't include that targets in the distance reduce in angular size. He doesn't make any mention of this, and every single globehead who has ever gone on this panel and made a comparison to photographs of targets did not include their angular size reduction when comparing them to the metabunk calculation. Is this in any way unclear, Alan?
You're so angry.
Yeah, I am. I'm angry that people like Mick lie through their back teeth and then in his psychotic way come on with a grin and a giggle when we point out just how fraudulent he is. Did you buy any of it? Did you like his rule of thumb for perspective? Did that convince you, idiot?
Jesus Christ.
Take your time.
He's not
Did
gonna
his
help
rule of thumb convince you of his version of perspective, of refraction?
Well, it doesn't include the perspective calc.
Refraction.
It's just a standard refraction.
It's a 7.6R radius measurement that he made up.
From the Earth model.
Sorry, he puts a citation to standard atmospheres that had absolutely nothing to do with 7.6R. Zero. We pointed it out, and do you know what he did? He told us that that was just silly.
Yeah, he directed us at a mathematical model that had no reference to any kind of measured proof. It was just pure...
He then told us that his citation was a link to a discussion on his own website.
Nathan, Hillel Finder's come in as a guest. Let's treat him as a guest and let's have a conversation with him. But let's not attack him because he's here new. I don't think he's been on before. And let's just see what he's got to say. But let's be nice with him. Hillel, you may speak. You have the floor.
Thank you. It's just that, sure, his calculator doesn't have angular size in it. But then again, unless there's some input for the height of the target, then that's not possible, right?
Yeah, that's been done by the globeheads that come along and use his calculator to compare to heights of targets in photographs. So it's not us that need to be annoyed with Mick. because the guys that have presented his calculator next to their observations have got it very wrong because of Mick West.
Well, technically, Nathan, it is kind of the other way around. He basically made this calculator and people falsely use it to compare the photograph, while that is technically not what it is designed for. It just doesn't say so.
Sorry, I just got to correct you there, Arwin. Mick West himself has used this calculator for that very function. He is the creator of it.
He uses his own system.
Right, and his own system is completely fallacious in spite of the fact he demonstrated and alluded in comments to having a high degree of understanding of perspective. And then when we pointed this out to him, he danced around the fact that he used double speak to claim that light is both straight and bendy.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, well, this is the facts of the matter.
Yeah. Well, he has basically omitted to being a deceiver without any shame.
Listen, what the remedy is, I accept that there is a fair counter by Mick to say, and Hillel, to say that he isn't actually addressing anything that we're putting in the distance. So whatever mountain or whatever we're looking at 1,000 feet, this is not addressing any part of it. That is a fair counter.
No, I agree, and I addressed that on the show. Said, I don't care about this. This isn't an issue for me. It's the globe heads that have presented evidence that are now going to be humiliated when we apply an angular size reduction to something they have claimed victory with based on his calculations. They will look stupid. They should be annoyed with him. And I did disclaim this on the show yesterday.
Nath, just present my screen, please, if you would.
You're up.
Right, so this is the part where the debate is real, where we've come to at the debate, and Hillel says, and it is right, he doesn't address the height of the objects. However, in the absence of doing that perspective adjustment for the maths, he needs to do something like this, where we see the disclaimer that says objects in the distance are smaller than they appear. That's what it needs to say, because otherwise, or are bigger than they appear. Because otherwise, everybody that goes to the curve calculator will put in the default value of 1,000 feet, for example, when it should be like 320 feet once it's been reduced for perspective. And that's the problem. Every ball that I've ever seen has always put in the target at a full height of 1,000. If it is 1,000, yeah.
In brackets, it should say depending on refraction.
No, we should say depending on R, because that's what he uses, you complete idiot. 7, 6, R. That is what he applies for refraction. We also held him to account on this. When we got to the R value, it transpires it is in no way backed by evidence and is a pure, 100% unadulterated assumption.
Gentlemen, may I present 3 photographs, please?
Yeah, go ahead.
Jolly good. Excellent. Yesterday was a fabulous day in Northern Ireland. I just share my screen.
Can I just say, I only just got your message. I'm really intrigued to see what you've got.
Whose message?
Well, I hope to deliver. I think it's in context of what's happening this morning. Can everybody see that picture of
you're on.
Isles? Right. Well, I was at Whitehead Rocks, just at the end of Belfast Lock. This is Belfast Lock, and I could see a wind farm here in Kilmarnock. I could see a very good outline of the Isle of Man, and I could also see, and this is where I'm going to focus at the moment. In Holland and Wolff, they were the company that built the original Titanic. They have 2 very large cranes. You can't quite see it, but there's one there and there's one there. That's put in the context. I was 12 miles on the shore, maybe 5 foot above the water. No, it would have been less than that, but anyway, we'll just say that for the time being. Now, Belfast Lock has the main generator of electricity for Northern Ireland. It's the Kilroots power station. And this picture here is the pipe where a ship can come along and pour oil along that pipeline to go straight into the power station. We've got that. And this is oh, hang on, not that one. So here we go. There's a pipeline going on an x-axis, and way in the distance there, you can see, just get the enlarger, the 2 Harland and Wolff cranes. You see that? You got the gentleman?
We do.
Yeah, jolly good. Now then, let's go to our next one. If I could get low enough and far enough back, I should be able to see the Holland and Wolf cranes actually through the oil pipeline, and I did. If we can just find it. That's it there. That's me on the shore, low down, and watch what you can see here.
Nice to see something in focus, Mark.
There we go, Holland and Wolf. There we go. Now the Holland and Wolf cranes are. Just let me have a look at this, if I can remember. The highest one is 350 feet above sea level. It's actually at sea level, so it's 350 feet above sea level. And this pipeline is about 30 feet. That was a calculated guess from me. And I'm looking at something that's 12 miles away. Now, gentlemen, it's observably flat.
Ranty,
Yes.
see if you can dig out the composite for me again, if you would. While Hillel Finder's on, I'd like to show him, because basically they don't accept, it appears, and including Hillel, they don't accept that the land that we can see in the north of Isle of Man is the same land that appears on the composite. And I'd like to just basically corner him and ask him to explain how it's possible to be anything else but that.
Just want to say thanks, Mark. Great. No hump, no curve, nothing. Just flat
Sorry,
as a
Mark.
pancake.
I
Absolutely.
didn't-
Long distance, straight line of sight.
Listen, Riley, can you see what I've got up now? Can you?
It looks like a lighthouse.
Lighthouse on the left, yes, and there's an island here on the right, and that land in the distance is the Isle of Man. And a bit further over, the land sort of, I can't find out exactly where it stops, but the land beyond that is the Lake District and probably St. Bees as well here.
To be honest, I can't see that. It's a bit blurred for me to pick that out. I can't see the Isle of Man that you're pointing out, to be honest.
Okay, well, I'll increase the levels.
Yeah, that's better. I can now. That's miles better.
So that's the water that finishes, and that's the Isle of Man. And again, I'm going to go back to this is the important bit here. These two islands. On this island here, we have the lighthouse that we're looking at, and then we have just an island with a farm on it. So I can see right through them, and if I keep going, there we go. I get to the Isle of Man. Now, if I go beyond, if I change my angle to outside the lighthouse to about here, I'm looking at St. Bees. Or not quite St. Bees, but that coast, this coast here, I can see back in that photograph. The far left is the Lake District. The bit in between is the Isle of Man. And if we bring it over like that, on the other side of that little island, again, this is all the Isle of Man. Observably flat.
Yep. Love it. Is that your lot, or have you got any more?
I've got a bit of Scotland.
Yes,
but
please.
I'm not quite sure what I'm seeing in Scotland. Oh, I know that this is it. Okay, I went to Holland and Wolf, the other end of the lock. Holland and Wolf is right behind me here, and this is that oil pipeline that's 12 miles away. Increase the levels. There we go.
How high are you at this point? This elevation, the observation elevation?
At this point, I'm about 5 foot above the water.
Wow.
So as we saw, that's about the height of those that pipeline is about 30 foot when we got close to it on the other side, 12 miles away, and this is me looking at it from Holland and Wolf. And in the background, this is incredible. This is Scotland. This will be the Mull of Kintyre or the Isle of Arran. Belfast Loch, when it's calm, it's observably flat. Don't need any curve calculators at all. There's the chimney, by the way, of the Kilroot power station.
I like that statement. Yeah, no need to beg the question for them. If someone wants to come along with a calculator and beg the question, assume a radius, and then insert this curve that doesn't exist, well, let them try. But we can just assert with every photo, this is the flat Earth. This is what it looks like.
Yeah, this is a point here. This lighthouse is now debunked, or no longer used. However, if I increase my levels again,
Defunct, not debunked. You've been in flat Earth too long. Come on.
Again, that line there is Scotland, but this is the bit I can't work out, and that's why I was asking Ranty for some help. I couldn't get it to stitch, but just a few degrees away from that lighthouse I just showed you. This is Scotland. There we got, and we'll increase the levels, and we can see there's a wind farm there. Now, I believe that's Kilmarnock area, but I might be wrong. I've not identified that yet. It's definitely Scotland. Just go back to what I was looking at. Looking this direction here, somewhere around here, there's a wind farm, but I can't quite find it yet. But again, it's 70 miles distance.
Very
Observably
cool.
flat.
Any more for any more?
No, that's it. That's pretty much my what I got yesterday.
Right, now, I hope I'll do this as well, but hopefully if the panel can just yield to Hillel. Am I saying your name correctly? Hillel. Hopefully we'll get him back. Hillel and Anthony.
And when he does come back, I'd like to...
Sorry, I was writing some stuff down. Hillel.
Hillel.
Yeah, there you go. It's fine. No one gets it the first time. Sir, do you have a question?
I was under the impression that you wanted to dissect something about the Isle of Man.
That's exactly what I'm doing right now, actually. Later this month, I'm actually going to be going to St. Bees. Yeah.
And
inspired by you guys.
He's been invited. He's been invited as my guest, and he can have free accommodation, and we can do the experiments together. It's all going to work out fine.
We'll see. But anyway, what I hope to do is sorry, I had to cough. A myriad of observations going up and down the beach there, and what I'm taking in suggestions from both sides of stuff to do while I'm there. So if you guys have anything, let me know. I'm just taking down some notes right now of the.
Yeah, I've got to recreate what I did on the beach, lay on my belly with a camera. Have you got a P900?
Yeah, do a 1 foot high
yes.
long distance.
Yes, I do.
Photography.
So recreate what I did, and then once you get it yourself and you satisfy yourself that it's verified,
bet on it.
And whilst we're here, can I address the point that you said?
Sure.
Nathan, would you mind presenting me?
Go ahead.
So I'm referring to your most recent comments to me on Skype.
Sure thing.
And your comment was on Skype. I believe that most Globers, including myself, say that it has not been proven that the dark smear to the right of the mainland in your down on your belly footage are those of the northern mountains on the Isle of Man. I plan to address that by da-di-da-di-da. I'm responding to that particular point that the smudges, the dark smudges, are not the land in question. Now, you've seen the composite before, correct?
Mm-hmm.
This was taken at the end of last summer, just before the weather started turning against us.
And if you could tell me exactly the GPS location when you took that, that'd be very appreciated.
Yeah, it was on the highest hill, the higher hill. I could show it you.
Yeah, but if you could find the exact GPS location, that'd be swell.
Well,
I want to make sure I'm getting it from, because I plan to take a picture from the same spot, and I want to make sure that it is the same spot.
Do you realise the chances of you actually capturing that are probably 1 in 100?
Well, let's hope for 1 then.
Just so you're aware.
That's all right.
I'm trying to get Google Earth Pro. I'm going to show you where it is.
Go for it.
Google Earth Pro. Why is that not coming up? Maybe I don't have it on here. I've not got it on here yet. Basically, I'll have to show you. It's on the top hill. But right, anyway, my point was, so we're trying to establish whether the dark land is the same land as that is on this composite. But remember, this was taken at the end of summer, and I was challenged by people, the ballers, to go back and repeat the observation from the beach. Mm-hmm. And I went down pretty much as low as I was prepared to go, which was basically touching the dirt.
Oh, and Anthony, by the way, shame on you. Never put your camera in the sand like that. Come on.
Well, without short of digging a hole, it was the lowest point that I was prepared to go before the camera would have actually got submerged.
Yeah, but still, at least lay out a towel or something. Don't put your camera in the sand. Come on.
Well, anyway, it's done now. But
yeah.
So we can see that we've got Snaefell. It's covered in clouds, and then we've got North Barul.
Mm-hmm.
But the features that the land follows, it comes down in a gradual gradient, and it ultimately it accumulates or terminates with a drop into the gap that is Ramsey, the town of Ramsey. We go across and we see the floaty land that I call floaty because it appears that the sky reflected underneath it. And the challenge was to go back and to repeat that. So if you can just pay attention to the part where it starts from North Barul, it tapers off to a point, it drops down into the sea, stops, and then I'm going across and I'm looking for this band of land. Okay, so when I went back and did the observation, basically, Sparkane refuses to acknowledge that it's even there. He turns a blind eye to it, which I find dishonest. So I'm going to ask you, would you be intellectually honest and accept if you agree that the land is there? So, where is it now? Is it that one?
Well, I think what my comment was saying before is that a lot of us agree that there is, in fact, there's something there that's slightly darker than the rest of the stuff around it, but we don't agree that that's the land. That's part of the contention.
Right. Well, in that case, what would be the alternative? If it's not the land, what is it?
I don't know. For all I know, it could be a low cloud or something like that. I'm not sure.
Right. So at the beginning of this video, I wasn't quite sure what I was looking at because it seems to be squashed, which again is a flat Earth proof. Can't squash on a ball Earth. We'll get to North Barul, drop back down again. We see the land. It tapers off into the sea, and then we have the gap. There's the tapering bit, and we have the gap. And now I'm expecting to see land that matches what we saw previously. And when we get across to it, I see it. It's the center of frame now. I zoom in, and there is land. That is clearly land, and it's exactly where we'd expect it to be if it was the hills at Bride. It appears to be flattened. I don't mean the contour. I mean the land we're looking at appears to be flattened, and particularly at the beginning of the clip. But look at how much we're seeing. We're seeing quite a lot of it. How is this explained when there's supposed to be 700 feet of curvature behind us, beyond the horizon, and there's supposed to be a bulge of water blocking that out? Your only explanation here is to either deny that that's the land and call it an artifact of the camera, in which case I'd say that you were intellectually dishonest, or accept that it is the land, but you have no explanation for how much blame refraction again. But it's obvious.
Well, I think something I hope to do is because something I was a little bit annoyed about with this particular observation. I think it's even in the comments of the video is that basically your only real proof that it is the land is that there's the mainland of the Isle of Man, and then there's a gap, and then there's that whatever it is.
No,
whatever we can agree. And then also, what I was a bit.
Hang on. If we didn't have this composite, I would accept that as a fair complaint. But we have this to match, and it matches perfectly.
But do you have a composite from the lower position that matches up with the upper position?
Well, it's a different zoom in it because I'm using total digital. But I mean, if you're going to argue that the zoom makes this incredible, then
no, not the zoom itself, just a composite from the lower elevation. That's like a composite from the lower elevation, which you can match up that smudge.
I tell you what,
with the land.
I don't have one. Hang on a sec. I don't have one, but if I was to make one, it would be ridiculed and dismissed on that basis. So perhaps you should make the composite and you should overlay it, because if I do it, it won't be accepted. But do you accept that we are seeing in the video, we are seeing a compression of this part of the northern part, this North Barul bit here?
Sorry, could you make that a bit bigger? It's a screen on a screen on a screen.
Do you accept that the land that we're looking at on the northern side, not the Bride, but on where North Barul is, which is there, do you accept that that is being flattened and squashed?
How much? It probably is a little bit.
Come on, it's noticeable. Look at the way that it when it tapers off to the point where it dips into the sea. There, look at how flat that is. And then when we use the composite to compare it, look how not flat it is. Now, to be honest, I actually think we're looking at this bit, because I don't think the camera could see that far on this particular day. So I don't think that's the contour we're looking at. I think it's this one here.
Probably. Might be.
But either way, whether it's one or the other, matters not. It's squashed. It's very squashed. That's only possible if we live on a flat plane. What would be the explanation just for that point on a ball?
Well, that would at least be probably a little bit of squashing on the globe, but mostly it would be that the vast majority of that would actually be, or at least some of that would be behind the curve of the Earth, and then that part of that tapering off bit is because that's all hidden.
Yeah, but it's clearly seen in the picture. Do you agree?
Well, what I would want, and I think what a lot of people want, is for you to make a composite from this lower footage. I mean, really, and like I said,
Why would I
does
do
it?
that?
No,
It will be
wait, no.
dismissed.
No, who does it doesn't matter. What matters is how it's done. If you do something well, it doesn't matter who does it.
I'm not prepared to, because nobody accepts anything that I ever do. If you want a composite,
Well, then don't expect many people like myself to accept that is the land, because what would convince us is something like a composite. Unfortunately, I'm no good at that.
I've got to interrupt because you're going around in circles now. So maybe I can help a little bit. So if you go back to the composite, Anthony, and let's just ignore this picture on your belly. Yeah. So this composite is taken from about 110 feet, or 105 if you include the tripod that this was taken from, right? So what I would suggest you do before you start compositing the lower elevation is reapply the adjusted mathematics to this 200-foot piece of land on the right-hand side. So this piece of land from 150 feet, I would like to know mathematically, with an angular size reduction, if that should be seen. Sorry, could you just pop the composite back on, Anthony?
Wait, sorry, what is angular size reduction?
It's called perspective. It's something that we all take into account with every single photograph we ever take, with every camera we ever use, with every video tape we ever take. Every time we look at anything ever, we encounter perspective. I went through this with you earlier. A lot of the chat criticised me for interrupting, but it seems clear that I'd have to explain to you several times to many globers. It's called perspective. The other term is angular size reduction at distance. And it means that when you look at something that is 1,000 feet, or in this case 200 feet, it's not actually 200 feet. It's considerably smaller. Its angular size has reduced with distance. As I say, this is called perspective.
Okay, I know what perspective is.
Excellent. I would like you to apply that mathematical formula to this observation, the one that there's no disputing what we have. I have physically measured the height of the observation myself personally with a tape measure, including the tripod, at the absolute worst case scenario with the lowest tide, which it wasn't at. The maximum height above the sea is 115 feet. This land in the distance is about 200 feet. I think the absolute highest peak is 220 feet. So
300.
My apologies, 300 feet. So given those mathematics and those parameters, at 34 miles, I would like you to make an angular size reduction. I hope I don't have to explain that to you like I did Mick West and every member of the audience yesterday about 100 more times. We observe perspective. So apply that, what we see, and what this photo has captured, using your presuppositional value of R that you assume, and then beg the question and tell me how much curve should be there. How about that for a challenge? Don't need to go anywhere. No need to go to St. Bees for that. We've already got it. It's been replicated by Ranty also, so there's no need to double check that this is valid. It's been verified.
If I need to, I'm going.
So just acknowledge what I've said. Before you go anywhere, I'm challenging you to reduce the angular size of this in your calculations, beg the question with R, and then present it to me as though it's proof, so I can have a good laugh.
Well, it's not going to be proof. That's not how that works.
No, you're damn right it's not. Yeah, I understand that. That's why I said I'd have a good laugh when you come to me and present it as proof.
Well, that's not what I'm not what I'm going to present it as.
Right. So why the hell are we worrying about what we can and can't see from the belly? What are you doing this for? Is this just a fun conversation about nothing then? You're not here to prove the shape of the Earth being a sphere. Sorry, just listen to my question. Are you not here to prove that the Earth is a sphere?
No.
Well, what's your purpose in being here?
I'm here to first make predictions and then test those predictions.
Predictions? What predictions?
Yeah. Well, in this case, mathematical.
Right. Mathematical based on what, though? What are you going to calculate?
Something I plan on doing.
So you're dancing around this. Are you saying that you're not going to apply curve calcs to this observation? Is that what you're telling me?
Well, I probably will, but not...
Right. So, when you do, and before you go to St. Bees, what you need to do is adjust for the angular size in this observation. Do you understand?
I'm trying to explain.
Don't try and understand. Say yes. I understand that this observation has been replicated and I don't need to move a smegging inch. I can do it from here. I simply need to apply an angular size reduction to what we have seen and has already been measured. Do you understand? Yes or no? You asked what you need to do, and I'm telling you.
Yes, and
good.
Also...
So piss off and do it.
Calm down. Come on.
Right. So what I'm trying to say is that...
You asked what you needed to do. Now I'm telling you. So toddle off, Go and measure how much of this should be seen with an angular size reduction based on the distance, then come back to us. You asked what you need to do, and I'm telling you. So go and do
I
it.
planned on doing that.
But you could do it with a calculator now.
Well,
Excellent.
yeah, I don't have the calculator in front of me, but I'm just taking down some notes
Why
right now.
not? Do you not observe perspective? Did you not see yesterday? Oh, you said you didn't. Sorry, I'll take that back. I'll lower my tone. Yes, it's been established that nobody accounts for the angular size reduction at distance. I appreciate that not many people have seen Mick get torn, you asshole, but they will. And in time, everybody, including you, who will, as you have just confessed, apply curve calcs that beg the question and assume the outcome. Yeah?
How is it begging the question?
Because you already assume that we have a radius.
That's not an assumption.
Sorry, is
Sorry,
it not an assumption?
It's not begging.
Oh,
I meant to say
sorry,
it's
do
not
you have
begging-
scientific
For
evidence for the
R,
radius?
therefore you are
Listen,
begging the question.
dickhead, do you have scientific evidence for that radius? Or will you concede, as Mick West did, that it is an assumption?
Can I finish first?
You can answer my damn question. You've just told me it's not an assumption. So either you present scientific
what I meant to
evidence for it, or you concede that it absolutely is an assumption.
Okay, what I'm trying to say is that
Don't stutter.
I'm-
Answer my question. Concede
What I am-
that it is an assumption, or give me scientific evidence for it.
for prediction, it's an assumption.
Right. That's what I just said, you dumb idiot. Do you people in the audience understand why I get angry with these retards? Don't tell me it's not an assumption when I've absolutely unequivocally asserted as a fact. Who do you think you are? Don't contradict me unless you've got something to actually back up what you assert. Now, we'll go through it once more because it seems clear that you're slow.
don't need-
So I'll go through it again. What you are going to do, and I will hold you to this, is go away and account for 115 for observation and include the angular size reduction at distance when you beg the question and assume your outcome with the radius value. Then present it to me as a mathematical proof, which I will laugh at.
Tony.
Okay, so this is something actually I planned on doing ever since I realized that I was going to St. Bees, was I wanted to not just first of all predict and then directly measure, first of all, the angle of elevation of the mountains and also their angular size. So yeah, I will do that. And the way I plan on doing that, first of all, and also
horizon.
Yeah,
How will you choose what the horizon is?
Yeah. How are you going to measure the? How are you going to measure the angular size with what apparatus?
well, first of all, a homemade clinometer. Do you know what that is?
And what are you going to line it up with?
Level?
So you're going to set it to level, not the horizon.
No, not the horizon.
Okay.
That's
So what then? If your reference is going to be level, then how are you going to measure its angular size to a point that you're not going to be able to replicate? You're only going to be able to do it on your apparatus, correct?
Well, I have these. I have a theodolite app on my phone. But aside from that, to check it, I also have a clinometer, which is basically just a set of binoculars attached to a level, attached to a protractor with a string on it, basically.
How are you going to make sure that How are you going to make sure that the binocular lens is perpendicular with the level?
It's part of it. I can show you, but the binoculars I have, the casing is set up with the what's the word? The lenses. And besides, even if it's off by a few tenths of a degree, I think that's all right. It's mainly to check against the electronic one. So I make sure like I'm not like 5 whole degrees off.
Well, why don't you get your electronic theodolite and compare it with 2 or 3 other people's, and then see what the values tell you?
What would be the use in that? I mean, mainly
Because the use for that
if
would
there's some
be
kind of disturbance or like I'm having some kind of problem.
the
I
use for
can
that
check
would
it.
be
I'm mainly trying to check against some problem generally with the area, like if there's some weird.
the use for that would be Al-K did a theodolite measurement with his theodolite on his phone, and when I did it, I had 2.3 degrees variance between mine and his. So I got a third phone to do the observation, to do the measurement on theodolite, and I got a value in the middle, not in the middle, but it was somewhere in the middle. And
All at the same time,
my
you mean?
conclusion was the theodolite app on your phone isn't as accurate as what you might think it is.
Wait, you did these all at the same time?
I did these. No, not the same. I did my 2 observations,
Okay.
my 2 measurements at the same time. Al's observation was done at a different time.
Well, something I'm also going to work on, which is later today, is I'm going to basically set up a little test for both of them, which is basically I have them like on a tripod and then aim them across a distance at something of the same height, and that should come up as level. So I'm going to test them both to make sure that they're at least, they're relatively accurate.
I don't think they'll be accurate.
Oh, and if it's not, then I can adjust it.
Well, okay.
Good luck with that.
Basically, I have a flat surface and then put a theodolite on one side, like a flat room. Put up a theodolite, aim it, make it level, and then go across the room, and then see where level is when it comes up on a ruler, and that should be the same height as the theodolite itself if it is truly level.
So can we just be clear? Did you say that you would or would not be using Metabunk curve calculator?
Oh, I will.
Okay.
Right. Sorry, I've just explained that before you do any of this, my God, I'm really going to lose my shit with you soon. Before you go to St. Bees, Mr. Finder, before, you need to figure out how to account for an angular size reduction at distance. This is the 3rd time I've gone through this with you, right? Before you go there, we need to know that the 115-foot observation wouldn't already be long gone behind your presuppositional, begging the question, proof of nothing, broke, perspective ignoring calculation that you're about to tell us that you are going to use. Because I assure you, unless you apply that angular size reduction, you will not be using it here. Yeah? And if you do use it, I will point out, if you do it elsewhere, that I've absolutely made it clear to you on 3 separate occasions that you will apply an angular size reduction and not use the Metabunk calculator as it sits, as it is not designed to match with viewing functionality. Yeah? I've asked you 3 times if this is clear. Is it clear?
Pretty clear now, Nathan.
What I plan to do is, first of all, I have my own calculator that I've made myself, because it's pretty gosh darn easy to make a curve calculator. And
Does it account for angular size reduction with perspective?
Yes.
Excellent.
Cool. Can you present it?
Can we see?
No, it's on written paper.
You have a camera. You have a webcam.
No, sorry. But what basically it's because it's all you need to do there's a complicated way and a simple way to calculate angular size of a target over around Earth. There's the very complicated way, which is like 7 lines long, and because you have to input a lot of stuff a lot of times, and then there's the very simple, the simplified version, which is basically, let's see if I remember. So it's the height of the target minus.
And with that, I'm going to say first and foremost, a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of the live audience for tuning in and hopefully for sharing this debate. And of course, a massive thank you to all of the debating panel for joining and making this debate possible. If you like the show, well, smash the like button. But if you hated it, well, maybe consider sharing it with a friend, telling them how much you hated it, or subscribing if you've not done so already. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all. Do you want to say goodbye as well? Okay. I will see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!